Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you so much for tuning into Tisha Talks Live. Happy March 1st. Can you believe it? I feel like 2024 is just flying by the seat of our pants. Anyway, I'm so excited to bring on our special guest in just a couple minutes. But before we get started, a couple of quick announcements. If you're joining me in the Phoenix area, I do have a couple of events coming up. One is my Social Connect Simplified. It is on March 27th in Chandler at Courthouse. This is like happy hour with your biz besties. So if you want to come hang out with us, you can connect with us at socialconnect.world, fill out a quick member profile, introduce yourself, and just be in the know of the events that I have coming up. This past week, I also did a fun event with the Midwest Food Bank. And so every other month, I will be hosting another service project. This one also coming up in Chandler on April 27th. We're teaming up with Live Love out in Chandler and beautifying these seniors' homes. So we're going into some senior residences and just helping them get their yards ready for spring. So make sure that you come on by, lend a hand. Friends and kids are always welcome as well, because we like to be able to teach our kids that, hey, service projects are good projects, right? All right, so before we get started, a little dance party to kick off our March 1st, and happy Friday to you. I'll be right back with our special guest. Welcome back, everybody. I see quite a few people joining us on LinkedIn. Don't be shy. Come say hi. Tell us where you're from. And again, if you have any questions around this topic, it's a hot topic for sure, then definitely ask those questions. So I've got Bridgett McGowen-Hawkins on. I've known her for several years, even before COVID. Bridgett, I think you were even on my podcast at one point when I still had Success Over Struggle. And Bridgett is just a woman of many talents. She is an author, an award-winning author. She's been on the NASDAQ. She has a publishing company called Press 49. I was actually in this book not too long ago, Redesign Your 9 to 5. So if you want to get this, I'm sure she'll share how you get this, but if you want to read my story, it is on page 267. So special shout out to Bridgett for having me as one of her contributing authors. I'm also an author. I've written a couple of books, but I can always be learning from publishers of how to get books noticed and how we just we get out there with our books and our messages. I know so many people that have come to me and say they want to write a book. But here's the one mistake that I see. They don't give themselves a deadline. They're just like, when I write, I'll write. And I'm like, well, that book's never going to come out. Bridget's in the green room shaking her head. So without further ado, I'm bringing on Bridgett. Hello, Bridgett. Here she is coming to the stage. Good to have you.
It's great to be here with you, Tisha, to have this conversation.
Thank you so much. And of course, we're talking about what you need to know, secrets to writing and publishing your first book. And I know, like I just said, I feel like every person that I come across has a book in them. Am I right? Everybody has a book. Everybody has a story.
It's true. The challenge is what you pointed out. They're waiting for the right time, or they are thinking about it and they need to wait until it's perfect. There's never going to be a perfect time. We'll talk more about that. The other thing is, oftentimes people think they don't have a story in them, or they don't think it's worth sharing, or they don't want to give another one of those violin playing, woe is me stories. But this is the thing. Figure out the lesson that you have to teach and the lesson that you've learned. First, the lesson you learned from your story.
Right.
I promise you, somebody out there is waiting for it and somebody out there needs it.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. I'm just going to give a big shout out to Royce. Royce is my brave soul. He's here every single Friday. He's always tuning in. He's one of my loyal fans. Thanks, Royce. He's out here also in Arizona. Yay, it's Tisha time. Thank you so much, Royce, for being here. All of you, you are tuning in. I see you. I have my LinkedIn open. I see you. We've got Randy who's also joining us. So don't be shy. Say hello. Tell us where you're from. And again, if you have any questions, this is such a great topic that we're going to dive into right now. So, Bridgett, all right. So, when people think about writing a book, what can you say are some of the mistakes that authors make? We talked about not setting a timeline, and I want to just
Yep.
share real quick. So, I wrote a book back in 2017, well, let's say 2016, 2017, but I was kind of one of those people that was just like hemming and hawing on it, like, it'll get done. But I really didn't have the motivation to write it. It was kind of a harder book for me because it was like all the secrets were out. It was me raw and real, like exposing myself to the world. And I remember, you might know this gal, Lisa Geis. Do you know Lisa Geis? Do you know her?
No.
I see your eyes going. So Lisa did something that was so great for me. She said, Tisha, when do you want to finish this book? And I threw out a date. I said December 1st. And she's like, all right, December 1st. And she put it in her calendar and she screenshotted it and she sent it to me. And it was like that was what lit a fire under me. That's what got me writing. Because I'm like, I don't want to let Lisa down because now she's holding me to the fire. Now I have an accountability to her to finish this book. And I actually finished it days earlier. So that's what you need to do. If you need to write a book, if you're writing a book, you got to commit to it. It can't just be a when I feel like it, I'm going to get it done. So I'd love to hear from you. What are some of the other mistakes that you see some of these authors making?
You definitely have to set a date. And I think what helps, Tisha, and this is what happened to me with my first book back in 2019, with setting a date, what helps is if you can have some big milestone. So maybe it's your birthday, maybe it's an anniversary, maybe it's your business's anniversary. For me, it was a big conference coming up. There was this conference happening in DC, May of 2019. Tisha, I had not written a book, but when the conference I don't know where my brain was when the conference reached out and said, okay, great. We want you to come speak. Do you have a book to sell in our bookstore? Now, Tisha, this was going to be the bookstore where Oprah's book was also going to be sold because she was presenting at this conference too. And I said, you know what? I don't have a book right now, but I'll have one in time for that conference. And I did.
Yes.
So setting that date or attaching the date that either you start or you finish your book, attaching it to another big date will make it more real. Here's another mistake that people will make. Aside from just not setting a date and getting it on the calendar, we put everything on the calendar, put that on the calendar too. Another mistake people will make is deciding to self-publish without knowing all there is to know or as much as they possibly can know about not just self-publishing, but all of the publishing routes. And oftentimes mixed in with going the self-publishing route, which is fine. That's what I did in 2019 that led to Press 49. Along with going the self-publishing route is a big mistake of publishing only on Amazon. Yes, Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, KDP, makes it easy. It's simple, it's free, so on and so forth. However, that big mistake in self-publishing only on Amazon, KDP, is you're missing out on other places that people go to buy books. When you publish also, or when you get distribution also on Barnes & Noble's site, Walmart.com's site, Porch Light Books site, Books A Million site, then you're able to reach additional people. And then a third mistake people will make, well, maybe this is a fourth mistake. So not putting it on the calendar, self-publishing without knowing the landscape, not knowing the full publishing landscape. And then inside of the self-publishing, publishing only on Amazon. I think I'm going to give you a fourth one.
Yeah.
And that is not calling in the pros when you really need to. And yes, not calling in the pros when you really need to. I know we're going to talk a little bit more about editing, possibly, and the different types of editors. That's a big mistake. People will just say, hey, I need an editor. Okay,
Mhm.
what kind of editing do you need? Do you need developmental or mechanical or copy editing? What do you need? So those are some
Right.
of the biggest mistakes. I could go on and on.
Let's get into that too, because I know you touched on self-publishing and working with a publisher. I would love for you to break that down a little bit
Yeah.
more, because I agree, and I think that I'm one of those people that's like Amazon and it's done.
And I get it. I get it. I'm trying to remember. I think with my first one, I made sure that I got distribution on not only Amazon, but also on those other sites. Yes, I did. I did. Yeah, I'm losing my mind. I did, because I remember it sold on Target's site as well, target.com, the first edition of that particular book. At
Mhm.
any rate, when it comes to the publishing routes, you essentially have four options. I won't go deep into them because I know this is a 30-minute show. I'll give
Mhm.
you the high, 30,000-foot level view.
Sure.
The first route is that self-publishing route that most of us know. Self-publishing is exactly as it sounds. You yourself are figuring it all out. You're finding
Mhm.
the editors, you're finding the typesetters, the cover designers, you're figuring out where do you get an ISBN from, where do you get a barcode from, where do you get a Library of Congress control number, how do you protect your intellectual property? Yes, it is immediately protected the
Mhm.
minute you write it, but to get that formal protection from the United States Copyright Office. So all the things, you're figuring them out, or you're hiring a consultant to
Mhm.
support you in figuring it out. That's self-publishing. It's the least expensive route to go if you're on a budget, absolutely. However, the risk you run is making mistakes, making huge mistakes, not knowing what you don't know, putting
Right.
your trust in people. You've got to vet them. You've got to vet these publishing professionals, putting your trust in people who may talk a really good game, but they don't know the difference between an ISBN and a cup of alphabet soup. Okay, so that's one route. The second route is the vanity publisher route. And it sounds,
Okay.
yes, it
Oh,
sounds the way it
about this.
sounds, or
Okay,
it
so
is
I'm
the way it
interested.
sounds.
Okay. All right,
You're
cool.
just getting published because it's a pretty thing. You're
Mm.
guaranteed to get published. But the
Mhm.
problem with a vanity publisher is they're going to publish you as long as you have the check to pay them. So
Oh,
they may have
yes.
already published trash, and your book is right alongside the rest of the trash that they've published. Your book may end up being trash. I've seen that. I've had clients come to me, Tisha, where they publish with a vanity publisher, and they'll come to me asking some other question, but I'm flipping through the book and I'll find all of these errors in punctuation or grammar or what have you.
Uh-huh.
That's the risky one with a vanity press. They'll do whatever you want and they'll get it done and they'll put it out there with not a lot of attention to quality and detail. It's just a
Mhm.
matter of you being able to say, I'm published. Now, with a hybrid
Mm.
publisher,
Mhm.
it takes the best of all worlds. It takes the best of vanity press and self-publishing in that you are the boss. That's what we do
Mhm.
at Press 49. We're a hybrid publisher. The
Mhm.
author remains in control of everything, the way your cover looks, the order of their chapters, and everything. However, the big difference between hybrid and vanity, with hybrid, we don't take everybody. And
Mhm.
we are going to make sure that we go through your book with a fine-tooth comb, design a cover that doesn't look any different from a cover that's designed by one of your big traditional publishing companies. You are guaranteed to have a book that you can be proud of. And like a vanity press, you pay us. But like a traditional publisher, it's going to get done right. And then that
Yeah.
fourth
Good.
avenue is traditional publishing. That's an option for about 1% of the population, Tisha. Most
Mhm.
people are not going to get picked up by Simon and Schuster or Random House or name any
Right.
one of the big five. They're just not. You
Yeah.
typically have to have this big following or a big name because you don't pay a traditional publisher.
Mhm.
They still have to pay editors and designers and typesetters. They still have to pay for everything that a hybrid publisher is paying for. However, they're taking a risk that your book will do well and will sell thousands of copies or tens or hundreds of thousands of copies. And that's how they will recoup their money. That's why they'll sign the big names, because they know the second that person gets on the air and says they're putting a book out, pre-orders are going to go flying in like carrier pigeons heading to Costa Rica.
Okay, first off, before we keep going with this, I got to just bring up Royce's comment here that says, "Love Bridget's energy." If you guys are tuning into this, she's just got so many little puns and alphabet soup. I'll never forget that. An ISBN number, alphabet soup.
Oh,
All right,
goodness.
and then of course Louise is joining us off of Facebook. Little late, hi ladies from Groovy Ventura. Thank you so much, Louise, for coming by. And we like I said, we have some people joining us on LinkedIn. So again, don't be shy if you have questions surrounding this. Of course, Bridgett is like the woman who knows it all about publishing, and we're going to keep diving into this. There's a question that I would love to know from you, Bridgett. Like you and I were talking about this, and I was like, oh, I'm so curious.
Yeah.
How is it? So how do you make, like, people are always like, I'm going to write a book, but I want to make money. Everything is about how do I monetize, like podcasts. How do I monetize a podcast? But for books, how do I monetize a book without selling one copy? Like, I'm like, riddle me this. I want to know all
Yeah.
about this.
I love telling people that I can give you that secret sauce. So here's the deal. It kind of goes back to that first question that you posed in terms of what are some mistakes people make. Well, here's another mistake people will make. This is mistake maybe number 5 on a list of 5,000. It's thinking that their $30 book is what's going to pay the bills. It's thinking that, oh, if I pay a publishing company, if I pay a hybrid publishing company $20,000 to publish my book, and my book sells for $20, I've
Yeah.
just got to sell 1,000 copies and I'll recoup my money. Well, one, no.
No.
Amazon, let me just disabuse you of that right now. Amazon has to take its cut, and then there's also the cost for the paper and the glue and the binding and so on and so forth. So we won't even talk about royalty payments and such. But the big mistake people will make is thinking that book sales are where the money comes from. How you make money off of your book without selling a single copy is one of the ways, is how I started. Tisha and I know each other from also being professional speakers. That is one way to make money off of your book without selling a copy. You speak at a conference. People are loving what you're saying. They're picking up what you're putting down. I'm telling you, you could throw a leaf of lettuce out in the audience and somebody would grab it with their mouth. There's nothing you can't say that they're not loving. You finish your engagement. And yes, you can sell copies of your book afterwards, depending on what the event is like. However, you may decide to have your book in their swag bags. People see you speak, absolutely love you. They go back and share with their decision maker the wonderful experience they had with you, the wonderful lessons they learned from you, the great content they got. And oh, by the way, she also has a book. Here, check it out. And then all of a sudden you're booking a 5-figure speaking engagement. That's much better than $20.
Heck yeah, I'll take it.
From Barnes and Noble, which again, your book sells for $20. You're not getting $20 in royalties. And those of you
You're
who
not.
are authors, you know this. Now, another way is to send your book out to organizations where you would love to speak. So now they have an idea of your content, what you teach, what it is you're all about. Another way is to host your own events. And Tisha, you are the queen of hosting live events. It's hosting your own events. And I'm talking about workshops, I'm talking about retreats, I'm talking about virtual masterminds. You're not selling a single copy of your book, but maybe the cost to be part of your 6-week virtual mastermind is, let's say, $5,000. I'm just throwing that out there. It's $5,000, and each one of the participants gets a copy of your book. I could go on and on. I think in my new book, that shameless plug, that comes out March 5th, do not write a book until you read this one. In this book, I give you, I don't know if it's 12 or 15 ways to make money off of your book without selling a single copy. So again, your own events, speaking engagements. I didn't mention merchandise. You can sell merchandise. I could print up t-shirts that read, do not write a book. I'm making money off of those t-shirts. So I've got at least a dozen ways to make money off of your book without selling a copy in this new book coming out. But there's all kinds of ways. Again, that's a big mistake people will make, thinking they will get rich off of selling copies and copies and copies of their book. That's lovely. For me, having been a professional speaker since 2001, getting the speaking engagements because of my expertise and credibility that's been demonstrated in my books. That's how you get paid without selling a single copy.
I love that. I love that because you're right. Like, I think I just got a direct deposit. You want to know how much it was? It was probably a Kindle. Someone bought my book on Kindle. I think I got 12 cents.
I saw it coming. Yep.
12 cents off my book. Now,
and see the cool thing. Okay, so like Tisha shares, she, along with several other, yes, Randy, 12 cents. True story. I know I've gotten deposits.
I've got it
like
in my
that.
bank. I don't even know what the heck I could buy with that 12 cents, but I've got it.
Yep. Gumball machine is out. Let me think.
Oh, yeah.
Stamps are out. I'm going to
There
think
really
on that a
isn't
bit for
anything.
you.
Yeah,
But
there's
in this
nothing.
book, Redesign Your 9 to 5, where you, me, and 48 other of our closest entrepreneurs and business owners, in that book, you talk about your business savvy, your business expertise, what you do. The goal is people will buy that book and say, oh, I love Tisha's expertise. She has a business that has the answer to the problem that I'm looking to solve. I'm reaching out to Tisha. I'm booking a consultation with her, or I'm booking a program with her. And that is going to be far more valuable than the $30 from this book.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I like to say about books too, because we talked about this just a little bit earlier. Every single one of us has a book. Every single one of us. I am convinced, I'm sure you are too, Bridgett. We all have a story. We all have expertise. We can all be sharing that thing that somebody needs to know. And my books are very much my story. And I wrote 2 because I've got 2 kiddos and I didn't want one to feel like they just got, dissed. So 2 books, 2 kids, but I did differently. And I didn't write a 3rd book, Bridgett, but what I did is I actually started doing more like lessons, like just continuing the story after COVID on my website. And adding more lessons there. So I just had a woman, I don't know if you saw, I think you might have commented on this. I just had a woman out of Belize that I mentored years ago, like 3 or 4 years ago during COVID through Seed Spot. And she's like, I'm buying your books because I'm getting ready to start a mom entrepreneurs group in Belize. And you are the person that I know can talk about this. You've got lessons, you've got kids. Like, so I'm being interviewed on her live streams, podcasts, things like that. But that was like the coolest feeling to write, to author, to go ahead and write a dedication in the book and ship them to Belize. Best
amazing
highlight ever.
Yeah. Amazing. I mean, it's super incredible, the opportunities that come. And when you were talking about this group, I mean, I'm thinking about how your book could be the basis of a book club. Somebody, depending on what your book is about, somebody comes across it and they think this needs to be part of our book club. Or I think about that instance with you and the connection in Belize. When they finish reading your book, who knows how many of those moms may reach out to you one-on-one wanting to work with you. Right. Again, far more profitable than what your book sells for at an online retailer site.
Than my 12 cents.
Tisha, we're not going to bring up the 12 cents anymore.
Okay, we're not doing that.
Until we can figure out what we can buy with it.
I'm just going to tell you, there is nothing. There is nothing you can buy with 12 cents. So I was like, why even send this to me? Come on. All right. Yes, Roy's saying there is no better authority builder than having your own book. And you know what? It really is a great conversation starter. I'll say that. my 6-year anniversary of my last book, What Are the Odds? A mom shares her good, bad, and what the F moments in life and business. Just celebrated. And, I do these lessons. I don't know if you've seen, Bridget, I do these lessons in my Lexus every Friday. It's my consistency thing. It's the series. I do it all the time. I load them on YouTube. I really am doing it because I want my kids to watch them years later and be like, oh, that was a great lesson mom shared. Oh, that was another great lesson that, yes, I learned that from her. Like, it really is more of a legacy. And that's why I wrote those books. But yeah, I mean, I think that some people, when I posted that the other day, they're like, I didn't even know you had a book. I'm like, oh yeah, I've got books.
That makes me think about something else, Tisha,
Yeah.
how you had someone say, I didn't even know you had books. You have to constantly talk about your book. Here's mistake number
Ooh.
2058. A lot of time, a lot of times people think the publishing company, whether it's a vanity press, a hybrid
Mhm.
press, or traditional press, they think that marketing comes with it. A certain level of marketing comes with it. But here's the deal. Here's the deal. As I shared with someone a week or two ago, either you can talk about your book or you can pay someone to talk
Mhm.
about your book, i.e.,
Right.
PR, marketing, book marketing experts, right? Yes, your publisher will talk about your book leading up to the publication date, on the publication date, and here and there after the publication date. But guess what? Those
Mhm.
publishing companies have other books to talk about. So,
Right.
a big mistake people will make is they'll stop talking about your book. And when you talk about your book, even here you are many years later, 6 years later, and people are like, oh, you have a book? You have to constantly talk about your book because if
Yep.
you don't talk about it, people won't know about it.
Mhm. True. And I would think one of the easiest ways to do that is even just throw it on your signature. Like, here's my book.
Yes,
Here's a link to
yes,
my book.
yes,
Yeah, I think
yes.
that so here's one of the maybe the misconceptions I think people have of, like, my book is very much storytelling and lessons, and I've written 2 of those books. And I will say that the stories are still very relevant. Like, if you were to look at the lessons, they're not going anywhere. They're priceless, right? But I think it's that, well, I wrote this 6 years ago. Is it still relevant? And I have to keep reminding myself, yeah, those lessons still matter. They still are there. I still derived at those lessons in that way. And I know you will too in your own way. So, yeah,
I
I
like that you
like
make
that. You're teaching me, you're schooling me.
well, you've already got things down pat. I mean, all the way from convos in your Camry to lessons in your Lexus, you've got it down pat,
Yeah.
Tisha. Because when it comes to the stories, I want you, as you're writing your stories for your book, to think about making them timeless, as
Mhm.
timeless as you can, and thinking to yourself, would this have been relevant 10 years ago? And if the answer is yes, there's a good likelihood it'll be relevant 10 years from now. But really
Yeah.
working to make those lessons as timeless as you can, and you've done that.
Yeah, one of my greatest honors was being named. You probably saw it in the intro. One of Arizona's greatest 48 greatest storytellers, and I'm like, I love it. Like, I will take it because I love that people have penned me as a storyteller. So yeah,
You're very good
good
at it. You're
stuff.
very good
Good.
at it.
Well, so are you. So are you. Well, I know we have a couple minutes, Bridget. Is there something else that you were like dying to share out of those 5,000 lessons that you're like, oh yes, shameless plug, shameless plug. Do not write a book until
Do
you read this
not
one.
write a book until you read this one. I wrote it with my good friend, Allie Berthume, and it comes out March 5th. It is available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, BooksAMillion.com, PorchlightBooks.com, Walmart.com, wherever you love to buy your books. If you are writing your first book, if you are thinking about writing your first or second book, if you're thinking about relaunching your book, if you're wondering if you got it right and maybe you'll redo some things with your book, anywhere you are on the authorial journey, get a copy of Do Not Write a Book until you read this one. It is 402 pages of
Mm-hmm.
straight, helpful content. No fluff. Zero fluff. Zero fluff. And your book will thank you for it.
I love it. All right. Yes. And Bridgett, tell us how people can connect with you who maybe haven't met you before, but they're watching this show and they're like, I love this girl. She's awesome. Like, I want to work with her on my book. How can people reach out to you?
Yes, please visit connectwithb.com. Connectwithb.com. All of my social media handles are there. Links to my podcast, links to the publishing company, links to blogs, all of the ways that I appear in the world, so to speak, virtual world. You ain't getting my home address from there. So that's why I had to say virtual world. You ain't showing up at my house. Not that crazy to put that out there. Connectwithb.com. Would love to hear your author journey, hear your stories, answer your questions. I am low stress, not low obligation, but like if you were to schedule a call with me to discuss your book, I will sit and I will talk with you and answer all the questions you have without sending you a contract, without doing some kind of sales pressure on you or anything like that. I don't hound you. I am all about understanding and remembering where I was when I was trying to figure out this book thing and I was getting ready for that conference. I remember that. That will never go away. And so I'm all about educating people and making sure that they can get their book out there in the fashion that they want it to be. So connectwithb.com. Would love to connect with you everywhere and talk books.
Talk books. Okay, speaking of, I want to know how many books are you up to now, Bridgett?
When this one publishes on March 5th, this will be book 11. This will be book 11. I've got another one coming out before the summer.
Wow. Okay.
I won't talk about that one now, but this is book 11.
Book 11. And you said the first book you wrote was 2019 for the conference.
Yes, it's now in its second edition. The first edition won an award. It's called Real Talk. The second one won an award last year. Yes, last year. But yes, that book is now in its second edition. And I had to do a second edition because that first one, it was self-published. It was a hotmess.com. So yes, that book, Real Talk, is in its second edition. Won a couple of awards. Very proud of that one.
Good for you. So proud of you. And thanks so much, Bridgett.
Randy's
so much fun. And she's just like, Randy's sitting here in our green room just laughing.
Randy's going to leave this session and she's going to find a screen printer and print out t-shirts and sell them that read hotmess.com. She's going to go get hydro flasks and all kinds of things with hotmess.com on. I'll invoice you, Randy.
Hot mess. Randy, I want one of those shirts. I could totally sport that shirt like multiple days.
Yes, it should read. My first book was a hotmess.com. That's what it needs to be.
Oh my gosh. All right. So before we jump off, I see a couple more comments and you have such great energy, Bridgett. I could just like sit there and like just hang with you all day long. Oh my gosh. So fun. But Lee, who's joining us, said, ooh, would this have been relevant 10 years ago? I'm picking up the lettuce you're throwing out. You guys just have to watch the replay because Bridgett she's so animated and she says so many fun things. You're going to be like, did you just say that? Yes, she did. She just said that. And then Michelle, hey, Michelle, good to see you. She says, I will watch on replay. Yes, please do. That's the beauty of these live streams. You can always find it. These also published to my YouTube channel. So Tisha or bit.ly at Tisha /Tisha on YouTube. Yeah, that's it. And then also on LinkedIn. They're always on LinkedIn and on Facebook. They air there too. So if you missed any of this and you're like, I need to watch that. That was so good. She dropped so many nuggets about how to publish your book, the mistakes you're making, all the avenues of how to publish. And she knocked self-publishing just a little bit, but now I'm learning a little bit more on that.
But I can't knock it too much, Tisha, because I self-published. I'm just saying it's a lot of work. It can get done and it can get done right, but it requires a lot of work. And people tend to be geniuses in their zones, in their wheelhouses. Right. The average person doesn't say, I want to become a publishing expert, right? So you really have to become this publishing expert. So self-publishing, it's not a bad thing, and it can be done right. And some people have done it right, but it requires a lot of hard work.
Yeah, it does. I know Mary Thane Brandt. Hey, girl, she's giving us some love off of Facebook and good stuff. This was a great episode. Thank you, Bridget, for being here. All right, so just coming up, teasing next week, I've got Renee Latour. She has Ticket to Freedom is her company, Ticket to Freedom Consulting. I knew her back in Chandler, back in my mommy club days when she was going. She now lives in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and she's working that consulting and like all over the globe. And she's going to be coming in talking about how you find your freedom in business. So make sure you tune into that. That is coming up March 8th. And then I'm taking a little break. Britisha Talks Live for spring break and Good Friday, and we'll be back in April. So make sure you don't miss the last one in March. And again, just thanks everybody for tuning in live or catching us on the replay. We really appreciate your support and your questions and your comments. And Randy's hot mess t-shirts are coming. So if you want to buy one, make sure you do that. And Bridget, such a pleasure, my friend. Thank you for being on with me today and sharing all your wisdom about the publishing world. Loved it.
Thank you, Tisha. And thank you for the audience tuning in and being so lively and engaged. Really appreciate it. You're such a rock star. Thank you, Tisha.
Thank you. Have a great weekend, everybody. Happy March 1st. Happy Friday. All of the above. We'll see you guys later.